Here we are, guys, for week 7. I'm hoping to get better at doing these earlier in the week next week, but work's been crazy, so I'm going to jump into this. I found chapter 7 of Showtime far easier to read, and just how Stempel broke it down and organized it was, when it came to the specific shows, like of the icing, I found far more helpful than Jones. Now my biggest takeaway from, I'm going to jump to Jones and then I'll jump back to Stempel and Showtime, but Jones, the biggest thing I got was the Great Depression did hurt theater, but not that much. Obviously Broadway survived because we still have it today. But that the majority of what we were seeing at that time was satire. And a lot of it was also political commentary towards the global stage, at least talking about a lot of Russian, Italian, that sort of thing. He noted that Mussolini was seen as a bigger threat than Hitler for a little while in this. I found it interesting that the adaptation of Porgy and Bess still held stereotypes, but he also explained that it was more out of the following of naturalism and being in the style of naturalism than actually trying to perpetuate the stereotypes, including Rome's trick of making, no, that's the wrong quote. But if one examines the Gershwins and Hayward, what the Gershwins and Hayward were really up to, it becomes clear that both their intention and the result were as far from stereotyping as possible, which he said on page 85. When reading about Harold Rome and more of his blue-collar approach to shows, it's like, hey, my husband might actually like some of the shows he worked on, with my husband being someone who's not really into theater and really just tolerates it because I love it so much and it brings me joy. But I felt like his trick of making fun not only of love songs but of the overwrought seriousness of individuals who have no time for them, I feel like my husband might have actually gotten some enjoyment from those shows if they were popular now, like Pins and Needles. I really liked the fact that the part of the works programs from the Great Depression also featured making sure that the arts were happening, not just manual labor work, but that the arts were actually, and people who were skilled artists were able to work their craft as well, and that the people running these programs recognized and understood that life without art really isn't thriving. So I found that really great. Sadly, but not surprisingly, it went to the wayside until 1965, but it's just glad that we have the programs going again. And then I really appreciate the fact that the Cradle Will Rock helped the freedom of speech and performances and helped maintain and set up things so that we still have that today. Again, I found Stempel's organization and breakdown of similar shows much easier to follow, and I don't know if it was just the breakdown of individual composers and lyricists versus looking at the time frame from the Depression standpoint, but I found it much easier to follow. And I noticed that while they talked about really a lot of the same things, or pretty much the same things on Of the Icing, it was just so much more detailed and succinct by Stempel than by Jones. So both quick, but also very detailed. And I found it interesting that it got the Pulitzer, but as a straight play and not as a musical. They just ignored the fact that it was a musical. But also Stempel notes that while the citation states that Of the Icing was satire on American politics, Stempel does not actually feel it met the requirements for satire, but is actually more in the farce category because the characters were sillier and it wasn't serious enough. It wasn't looking for that hopeful ending. It was just a commentary. Yes. I love the dynamic of the Gershwin brothers. I love that they worked together and that they just really got each other and were so cohesive together. That's just really wonderful to see. I didn't really care much about the Rodgers and Hart section. Not that there's anything wrong or bad about it, I just didn't have personal connections to it as much as I did the others. Recognizing several of their songs and stuff, having done work with Embraceable You on a show, that was a Hart show, but still. And I found it interesting that the composers of his day refused to recognize George Gershwin. As far as Cole Porter goes, I have great memories of doing Kiss Me Kate, working with Anything Goes, the music from both, and so it just really, for me, all of reading through Cole Porter, I really, really enjoyed, and it was. There were all these little moments of, oh, that's why that was, and how cool that it was that he was able to just live his life, crazy artistic life, for the time. I've seen the movie It's to Lovely, which just reinforced a lot of, there was enough of that through this reading, I was like, okay, they hit a lot of that on nail on the head. My thoughts are very chaotic today, guys. I'm sorry. I am so rambling. But I loved that he was so witty and clever in his lyrics. And, like, for example, in the song It's to Lovely, the tin pantithesis of melody. And as soon as I started reading that, I think I had skipped ahead to read the little segment instead of the lead-in. And I was like, Tin Pan Alley. He's just commenting on Tin Pan Alley. It's in the song, and the fact that he could master his wit that way so that it was entertainment for the rich bourgeoisie friends he had and the international friends he had, but it still be tongue-in-cheek and relatable to everybody, and to the point that it's still very known today, was just really, I enjoyed that a lot. Those were my takeaways for week 7.